All right, y'all. Welcome to my top five most poised boxers of all time. Now, trust me, this was a unique list. This was a list that took a lot of consideration, considering all the boxers, considering all the world champions and different type of aspects. But just to let you know the criteria, it's not about one particular thing. It's not about having speed or power or discipline to this and that. It was like the best combination of that in the biggest moments for that particular boxer and in the smaller moments. And this is where I really held against most of the fighters is obviously a lot of them guys stepped up in some of the bigger moments, but they let some of the smaller moments get away from them where they lost the guys they should have beat. And no matter if they came back and beat them, just a lack of focus. And to me, all of that has to do with poise. I'm not necessarily talking about outside the ring. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about in the ring, and that's where I developed the list. So you're gonna see some names on here, and you're like, man, like how could you have this guy here, this and that? But trust me, it's my personal opinion, first of all, and then second, I looked, man, I studied it. I'm not. I got some know-how about boxing, man. And those of y'all that's been following my channel, y'all know that as well, man. So believe me, this is who I think is the top five most poised boxers ever, man. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Now, y'all know normally I like to do nominees in my top five, top 10, whatever, but I'm not doing that today. We're just going to give you the one that I thought stood out the most, which was Salvador Sanchez. I felt like Salvador was one of the most poised boxers in the history of the sport. When you consider everything that he did in such a short time, his only loss came very early in his career to a guy that was way more experienced, so he definitely didn't lose to somebody that he was supposed to beat. Second of all, Salvador, no matter what was going on in the ring, he always looked the same. That guy really, really did a good job of maintaining his emotion, man. Purely defined the title of this thing, which is Ice in the Veins. So shout to my boy Salvador, boxing peace, and that's that. So moving along, we're getting into the list. At number five, gonna shock some of y'all, but I got Ricardo Lopez. Now listen, Ricardo Lopez was one of the best boxers of all time. El Finito is what they called him. Had some of the best footwork, high hand defense, explicit combinations, just a precise boxer. And he had a tumultuous run to get to his dominance, and he retired undefeated. So the first guy that he beat, where I thought he showed real poise, was his first title fight, which we're looking at now. Now, as you can see, Ricardo, look, this is not an aberration. This is how the guy was all the time. And right there you see he coming across with a devastating right hand that's going to be coming up soon. Just accurate, precision, dead on, you know what I'm saying? And this is how he did. And this was his first title fight, you know what I'm saying? He went overseas to Japan, so it took a lot of poise. And he maintained what he does well, you know what I mean? That's what I really thought he did and exceptionally well in this fight, and that's why I believe it ended in a knockout, man. Another time where I thought Ricardo showed great poise was in his fight against what's buddy named Alex Sanchez. I thought that was a fight where he kind of showed that it was levels to it, you know what I mean? And even though the fight was a big fight, there was a lot of emotion involved, he never gave in, you know what I'm saying? He never gave in to the temptation to step outside of his box, which is another sign of his poise. And as you can see there, he put the boy down with the right hand. He actually got Alex Sanchez out of there. This was one of his, I thought for it to be such a big fight, he got that boy out of there easily. So, yeah, shouts to Ricardo on this one. All right, this fight here is where I thought got him on the list to me, because this guy he fought was really the best, probably the best guy he ever fought in his career. The guy had high skill level. He did everything well. And the one thing that he had that a lot of the other guys Ricardo fought didn't have was no respect or fear. I can't say no respect, but he didn't have any fear for Ricardo. He didn't care about the perfect record, all the knockouts, all the accolades. It didn't matter to him. He was getting after him. And as you can see, getting after him now. The problem was in that first fight, they kept colliding headbutts. Just kept butting heads. Eventually, he did knock Ricardo down, big right hand, which was his first time going down. And really, I don't think he was hurt. He was just kind of more embarrassed and caught out of position. But as you can see, after the knockdown, you know, poise, just, right here demonstrating it for you. You see what I'm saying? In the clinches, in the trenches, the guys really trying to get after him, obviously, but couldn't get to him. This fight here, from the headbutts I was telling you about, it ended up ending in a draw. So they end up fighting again, in the second fight. Ricardo stuck to his game plan, but shout to the boy Alvarez, man. He never gave up. He stayed on him. He put the pressure on him, so it was really more the same, except that Ricardo kept his distance better, showed his true skill set, and ended up beating Alvarez on points. And I thought that was really what did it for him, for me, And he did all of this undefeated, right? Which is why I got him on the list, because once you become the Super Bowl, everything changes, And for him, he never slipped up. He never dropped the bag, even before. So you got to give it to him for me. And this is my number 5 top most poised boxer of all time. Now, my number 4, as you can see, I know this probably surprised a lot of y'all, man. But yeah, I got Andre Ward coming in at number 4, man. Now, listen, before y'all shoot the messenger, let me tell you, I did my homework. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Andre Ward. You know what I mean? I wasn't a big fan of his style. Didn't really put a lot of... didn't watch him a lot, when he was fighting. So I got a chance to kind of revisit history and really take a look at some of the things that he did well. And believe me, that brother maintained his composure. And he had a tag on his head really from the beginning, you know what I mean? So he had a lot of pressure winning that gold medal, you know what I mean? It's a lot of expectation on that. And he never dropped the ball, as you can see here. This was his first title fight against Overvello, and he ended up putting him out, got him out of there. So that wasn't a big thing for him. But I thought he maintained his poise in there, because there was different times when the fight could have got away from him, and he did what he needed to do. He kept staying behind the jab. He put pressure when he needed to put pressure, and I think that was a good sign for him in regards to that. But here's why he made the list, and it's this Super Six, because these was the best guys of his time, and they all were legit. They all had lots of wins. They had all been world champions, and I thought Andre performed exceptionally well in his first fight against Mikkel Kessler, which was probably the most, I think, the easiest fight for him, because not easy in regards to like Kessler's skill set, but easier for him emotionally, because he was home here. This was in Oakland, which is where he's from. And as you can see, he came out there in Southpaw. You know what I mean? Just really trying things. And look at this thing here. This is something that he did. He had a way of getting close to guys and kind of like shortening up their offense, where they didn't get a chance to work as much on him. And he was fast. He was slippery. He had a great jab, and he can put that right hand behind that jab fast. Quick. He knocked a lot of these guys down. And I thought in this fight against Kessler, he showed Kessler that he wasn't ready for him, and he wasn't on his level. I don't think it would have mattered if they fought in Denmark or wherever he's from. Just wouldn't have mattered. There was actually some headbutts in this one too. The fight got stopped short, but Andre ended up winning the fight. It was a technical decision, but he did win the fight. And this was his first fight in the Super Six, so he moved on after this. Now, his next fight I thought was the easiest of all of them, which was against Arthur Abraham. I don't like the turtle style. Just hands high, take, and then try to come and rip. I don't think that plays, especially against a guy that can move and can punch and is slick, you know what I mean? So for me, in this one, I don't think Arthur Abraham stood a chance. And I think where Dre showed great poise was he stuck to the plan. He never gave in to anything but what he was supposed to do. When he got close enough where he can grab him. Look, I see right there how he shrunk the distance. So none of that landed. Look. That's all slappy stuff. None of that stuff landed. You know what I mean? So Andre did a great job here of taking away what Abraham wanted to do, and then look, just out of reach every time. See? Great skill set, great poise. And this is his biggest fights. You see what I'm saying? So that's why you got to give him the credit and the respect that he deserves in spite of what you may think about him, his style, or his, whatever the case. Look at him. He working, man. Biggest fight of his life. So shouts to him. Now this one here probably was the toughest out of the Super Six, which is why it was the final. Carl Froch, I thought Froch was a beast. But man, talk about levels. He didn't really come close to doing anything with Dre. And he's overseas here, I believe. So Andre went out there and put that work in. To me, this is what separated him from everybody else, because he had these big fights, and what he did was he never deviated from what he was supposed to do. He never gave into the temptation to please the crowd, to try to please what people wanted, because there was pressure on him about being boring and not letting his hands go enough, not exciting enough. He ain't have a lot of personality either. So, it was really about his skill set to me. So, and he demonstrated it, especially here against Froch. Froch didn't do a damn thing, I thought, against Andre Ward. He wouldn't have won this fight no matter where they was at all. And he was talking a lot of shit, talking about how he was in best condition of his life, et cetera, but didn't matter. Andre Ward took everything away from him that he wanted to do, and I thought that he showed old Froch that it's levels to this thing, and that's exactly what happened. Okay, now we got the big fight against Kovalev, the first fight. Now, this was a close fight, I gotta say. This was another time, though, where I thought Andre showed great poise, and probably the most poise, really, because he got dropped in this fight. Kovalev hit him with a right hand. It wasn't as flush as it had seemed in real time. Like when you slow it down, it was rubbery, like one of them where his hand was moving. It wasn't flush, but it caught him with the right momentum, and Andre was trying to throw a punch, so he ended up getting knocked down. But in the biggest, there you go right there, as you can see. But in the biggest fight of his career to that point, watch how he get up, maintain his composure, finished the round strong. And Kovalev was known as a puncher at the time. You know what I'm saying? He was getting guys out of there. So that's why a lot of people had him winning this fight, beforehand. So this was a real demonstration to me of poise and skill set, And afterwards, Andre would regroup. He'd shake off the cobwebs and put in enough work on Kovalev to get the decision. And he would take all of his belts while he did it. You know what I mean? So shouts to Andre on that. That was a big fight against Kovalev. Then they came back and did another one, obviously, because it was controversy. Some people thought Kovalev won. And this is when Andre really stepped up in the second fight. He didn't even give Kovalev a chance to get a lot of that stuff off that he had got off in the first fight. And it ended up being a TKO in the 8th round. You know what I mean? And then maybe he was injured, maybe not. I don't know. People say, who knows? You know what I'm saying? All I know is the record books say TKO for Andre Ward over Kovalev in the 8th round. So, to me, when you add all of that up and you consider the pressure that Andre was under, you consider what was expected of him, you consider what people thought about him and everything that was going on, and to deliver on those big stages every time without fail now. That's another thing. He beat the guys he was supposed to beat, and he beat the guys that he wasn't, because he fought some tough guys in between all of these guys. He had an Edison Miranda in there. He had a Chad Dawson in there. So this to me, Andre Ward is one of the most poised boxers in the history of the sport, and I think, personally, he would be number 4. All right, y'all, my number 3, you got it, Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, to me, Ray was Andre Ward before Andre Ward, and a much more pressure, much more high skill level time in boxing. And I thought that Sugar Ray Leonard exceeded expectation. A lot of people didn't like him for various reasons. He was misread. They thought he was a silver spoon guy, but he actually come from nothing, real poor, So anyway, first time I thought he demonstrated great poise was against Wilfredo Benitez, and this was his first title fight. And I thought that I don't want to disrespect Benitez, but he couldn't do anything with Ray. I thought Ray was too fast, too strong, too agile, feet too quick, just on another level. And Wilfred was trying. Now, would he have fought him better if he was younger? Who knows? To me, that's one of the dumbest arguments that people ever have because it didn't happen that way. That's not how it played out. He fought him when he fought him, and it was a wipeout. So shouts to Ray in this fight. I thought he did great, man. He really put the pressure on him. It ended up being a TKO in the 15th round. And this was his first world title, WBC. He won it at welterweight. So shouts to Ray on this one, man. Big fight. Now, after beating Benitez, there was some fights Ray had in between, nothing major. He beat who he was supposed to beat. But his next major test came against, you already know, old Roberto Duran. Now, this thing right here was where I thought the one thing you might could hold against Ray, for far as his poise, and you can't, it's not might, you definitely have to, because that Duran, so I got him on the list even in spite of, for this reason. Duran did a great job of getting in his head. Those of you guys that know the details about the fight, he was coming at Ray different. Talking about him, talking about his wife, talking about his family, different things that he would do, to her, and et cetera, and shit that Ray couldn't do. So it was a lot of vitriol in this one. So Ray wasn't thinking straight. As you can see, he came out looking to brawl and bang. Now, the reason why I didn't hold it against him too much is because Roberto Duran was different. I mean, lights out fighter. Unprecedented, you know what I mean? And at the time, he was known as he always be known as the Hands of Stone, but he was actually showing and proving on that, you know what I'm saying? So I thought that you really could, you don't know, you just don't know. But he did win the fight, so, you know what I mean? We got to give it to him, and I'm going to say that he won because of lack of focus, because they did, as you know, they did fight again the second time, and Duran, I think Sugar Ray did him the same way. Now, I watched and saw some details about it. They say Duran was like, out of shape, had to lose mad weight. All these things could be true. But one thing for sure that'll always be true as well is you're going to be held accountable when you show up. So if you're going to make excuses, don't show up. That's just how life goes. And he did show up, and he could not do a thing with Ray. Ray was spinning around, dancing around all over the place, using his feet, using his movement, jabbing, poking his tongue out, just taunting the guy. And old Duran couldn't take it, man. That guy said no mas, which is no more. So he threw the towel in, which will forever be held against him. No matter what's going on. You never throw the towel in like that. You know what I'm saying? So, shouts to Roberto, definitely a Hall of Famer, but, you never, that'll always be the case. So, obviously, Ray ended up beating him, got him on out of there, and got his belt back, got himself back on track, and, where he felt he should have been in the first place. Now, the next fight, I thought where Ray had to show, and this was probably one of the most poised moments in the history of boxing because this was against the Hitman Hearns, the first fight. Now, why do I think that? So, for those of you who've never seen the fight, Tommy Hearns was beating the dogs, just putting the smackdown on Ray. Ray had a few things going early, but once Tommy got to moving and really firing his jab and start putting that right hand behind it like he's supposed to, I thought it was a miserable night for Ray, but somehow he maintained his composure. And it was really a testament to his grit as well because he couldn't see. One of his eyes had got really swollen up, you know what I mean? So Ray couldn't really see, but in spite of that, he kept on fighting. He kept on doing what he needed to do. He adapted. You see what I'm saying? And in that, he still maintained his composure in spite of everything going on, which takes an extreme amount of poise, especially in such a big fight. You know what I mean? And he ended up knocking old Hearns out. Now, that happened for two reasons. One, for the reasons I said about Ray. And then two, because to me, Tommy Hearns' conditioning has always been something to question. And you know, a lot of them knockout guys like him, you know, be having condition issues, you know. So I thought he had a hard time, you know, running out of gas. You know, not like old Zab Judah, obviously, because Hearns on another level. He a Hall of Famer, one of the best boxers of all time, #1 right hand in the history of the sport to me. But realistically, he had a hard time to me staying conditioned. You know, I thought he ran out of gas against Hagler. So yeah. Anyway, like I said, Ray ended up knocking him out, mostly from exhaustion, and that was in the 14th round. And this was a redemption for Ray, so we got to give Ray a lot of love. He came back from basically oblivion, you know, and won this fight. All right, this one for me is the one that was really pivotal as well, because Ray had to go head on and fight old Marvin. I thought he used all the tricks in the book on Marvin. This kept one of the reasons that kept Hagler off my list, because I'm a big Hagler fan. But, you know, this fight and a few other fights, I thought he didn't maintain that poise properly, and and he lost to some guys I thought he should have beat in his career, you know. So anyway, getting back to Ray, I thought he demonstrated great poise, great skill, great technique, kept Hagler off balance all night, knew what he wanted to do, meaning Hagler, and then he knew what he wanted to do himself, and he never gave in to what Hagler wanted. And I always think that's a great sign of poise to me, when a guy has a clear idea of what you want to do, and he takes it away from you. And then he's able to also impose what he wants to do on you. And that's exactly what Ray did in here, man. He knew Hagler wanted to get after him. He kept his distance for the most part. And then he would pepper him a little bit. You know, nothing crazy. He never tried to really trade with him and really, you know, get in no phone booth with no Hagler. But he kept him off balance. Let's see how he working there? He kept him off balance with that speed and that power that he had, because Ray was strong, you know, surprisingly strong, you know what I mean? And like I said, he would pepper him here and there. And then the thing he did to really steal the show was he would flurry old Hagler out at the end of every round almost, you know, just flurry him, you know, maybe 20 seconds, you know, flurrying him. See? Because the judges always remember the first thing they seen and the last thing they see. You know, that middle part of the rounds get lost. To all you fighters that's watching this, man, you got to be active in the beginning of the round and active in the end. So, yeah, this was it for me for Ray, and I thought this was one of the things that cemented him in the history of the sport. Now, after this fight, Ray would go on and fight a little bit more. He came back and fought old Hearns again. He fought Roberto Duran again, beat them both. I thought the Hearns fight was close, though. You maybe could have gave that other fight to Hearns. But, because he put it on Ray. Ray got knocked down a few times, like it was crazy. But they gave the fight to Ray, and that's what you got to go with. So I thought even in that fight, he maintained great poise, because he was getting knocked around, man. He could have easily threw the towel in, but he did not. And so without that, you got to remember, because I don't count. So you got to count it because it's in the record books, but he did go in on and beat Donnie Lalonde. He TKO'd him, and that's what separated him. I think that made him a 4-division world champion, right? But that should have been where he retired, you know. He ended up fighting again. I thought the Terry Norris fight was outrageous, considering what Terry Norris was about at the time. And even more outrageous was fighting Hector Camacho. You know, just bad idea. But if you take those two away, he only lost one time. And that was to Duran, who technically we don't know if he would have beat Ray. Because Ray came back and fought him the way he was supposed to fight him, and he beat him, you know, easily made him quit. So presumably Could have did the same thing in the first time if he was focused. You never know. But we got to go with what happened. So without the end of all of that, I got Ray at number 3, man. My most poised boxer of all time, Ray Leonard, number 3. All right, y'all. Coming in at number 2. Yep. Muhammad Ali, 3-time world heavyweight champion. Now, to me, if it wasn't for my number 1, I would have Ali number 1 for a lot of reasons, right? So, first off, we'll start with this fight. Poised. Fighting what's considered to be the boogeyman of his time. And as you can see, Muhammad had no fear of the boogeyman. Just blitzing them, ripping them, hitting them with jabs, hitting them with hooks, sharp, fast right hands. Had Sonny off balance all night long. Didn't know what the hell was going on half the time. You know what I mean? Never seen nobody like Muhammad Ali. Because you got to remember, look at him. See, because of how big he is, you don't realize how fast he is. See? And with that pull out kind of, pull back defense of his, it was hard to get to him. Especially if you're shooting one jab at a time, like that jab ain't laying. He pulled on that jab. So that was how it went for him. Now, where he showed extreme poise in this fight, I thought was old Liston liked to play dirty pool. And he had some substances given to him. And he put that stuff all over his gloves, start rubbing that shit in Muhammad's eye. Next thing you know, he was blind for like half the round, right? Now look at the poise. Didn't falter, right? Didn't run in, didn't just start crying, I can't go out there, I can't see, right? Went out there, held his composure, outworked the man again, ended up stopping him. The guy didn't even get off the stool, which is what I thought should be held against him for the rest of his career. Forget about all the duplicitous stuff. That man ain't get off that stool, man. I gotta hold anybody that don't get off the stool unless they hurt. But not because you're tired or you don't feel like it no more. Now, after that, he went on and fought old Floyd Patterson, TKO'd him, and then not long after that, they took his belt, for the military. But so his next chance to show great poise was that fight with Frazier, the first fight. Now, as y'all know, he didn't win that fight. However, I'm mentioning it on my list because I thought it was one of the times where, in spite of the fact that he lost and that he showed great poise, I thought he had completely underestimated Joe Frazier and found out in the ring, right? Which was too late. Frazier was a locomotive. Muhammad Ali hit Joe Frazier with everything that he could in that first fight. I mean, jabs, uppercuts, right hands, you name it. Hooks, he was hitting that man with everything, and Frazier was chopping at the tree, absorbing those blows, getting to his spot, and letting Muhammad Ali have it like a heavy bag when he got close enough. And that was the theme of this fight. To whereas, as long as Muhammad could punch and move, he would be okay. But the minute he slowed down or the minute he threw something lazy, he was getting hit with nuclear bombs. And this is where I got one of the reasons he's on this list and why this fight is being mentioned, because in spite of those bombs that he was being hit with, the man never faltered. The man never gave up. And he got knocked down for the first time in his career. Well, no, actually, this wasn't the first time, but on such a big stage it was, And the way he got hit, you would have thought it was over, but no. Muhammad got up way faster than you would think somebody can get up after that type of punch, right? And then Joe was going after him like a madman afterwards. So I thought that's where he had to show great poise, man, and courage, because Joe was trying to kill him after that knockdown. But he wouldn't give in, and he got hit a few more times. I mean, bombs. But great poise from Muhammad Ali, despite this being a loss. Now, right after this fight, well, not right after, but this next fight, he fought Ken Norton and lost on a split decision. Now, Norton is considered one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, and a lot of people really thought that Ken Norton beat Muhammad Ali every time, believe it or not. So um, that's what I want to say about that with Ken Norton. Shouts to Ken Norton. Now, where he fought Frazier again in that second fight, beat Frazier, and then went on, fought a few guys. Now, his next fight, where I thought he had to show great poise to be on the list, is against George Foreman, another boogeyman, right? Another person who was obliterating people with right hands and left hands, just really getting everybody. No one wanted to fight him. Everyone thought it was a bad idea for Muhammad to fight him. And what did he do? He fought him, he outclassed him, he outsmarted him, kept great poise, because even though, this is another thing about poise, even though you got a good plan, you got to be able to execute it, right? And so in his mind, he thinking, okay, I know that George is going to punch like this and swing like this, right? So getting people to reenact it is one thing, but actually being in there and feeling the force and the veracity of those punches is another thing. And I thought that Muhammad more than stepped up to the occasion. Look at it here. Getting ready to knock him out. He dragged him to the deep waters and drowned him. Great poise. Unprecedented, man. Not even sure who else could have pulled that off, You just Foreman almost killed Frazier before this, and you can see the damage Frazier was doing to to Muhammad Ali. Old George almost killed him. So, great poise moment. Now, the next time I thought he showed great poise to me was when he fought Frazier again. Now, that Thriller in Manila was almost like death. And considering the stage in their careers when they did this, either one of them could have threw in the towel. I thought it took more than grit, more than courage, more than confidence, skill set to win this fight. I thought it took poise, and enough poise to be considered the second most poised boxer of all time. This was a brutal fight, man. And think about all of the fights. So Muhammad had an interesting career, right? He went from not getting hit at all, right, as Cassius Clay, to coming back as Muhammad Ali and getting hit all the time, right? Blowing him up and getting hit. From Frazier on, guys was able to hit Muhammad. That's how he lost a lot of them fights that he lost. But I thought he showed great poise. And it wasn't as many, it's not like you think, believe me. He lost to Frazier, he lost to Norton, and Leon Spinks stole one. But Larry Holmes, and he was really too old to fight. Technically, this should have been his last fight. But he ended up fighting Ken Norton again, like I said, fought Larry Holmes, in the 80s, and ended up fighting Trevor Berberick. So that's outrageous, way just outrageous. But in spite of that, they didn't knock him out. They won the fight. The Holmes fight got stopped. Holmes probably could have knocked him out, though. Realistically, Larry Holmes could have probably knocked Muhammad Ali out if he wanted to. Trevor Berberick was trying to. So, that's that. So, yeah, in spite of all of that, man, I think when you add it up, his resume, you look at how many big fights that he had, how many of those was pressure-packed with everything on the line. And remember, even when he wasn't the champion, Muhammad Ali was still everybody's Super Bowl, man. People took pride in beating him. So to be able to beat him, knock him out, or whatever was a big deal. And he didn't give anybody that chance. And he gave him a chance, but they never pulled it off, So shouts to Muhammad Ali, my number 2 most poised boxer of all time. All right, y'all, without further ado, you got it. Floyd Money Mayweather, the most poised boxer ever. Hear what I'm telling you. The most poised boxer in the history of the sport is nobody but Floyd Mayweather, and it's Floyd by an extremely large margin. See, this right here is just his first title fight here. Now mind you, he was going up against old Gennaro Hernandez, who was a world champion and a high skill level guy, but At this time, he didn't stand a chance with Floyd. Floyd had too much of everything for him, and I thought he showed great poise in this fight because he never wavered. And this is a key thing. I've mentioned this before. Guys who are able to stick to what they're supposed to do in spite of what's happening is huge for poise. And I thought Floyd did that. He did everything he was supposed to do against Gennaro. Just hitting him with all kind of shots, too fast, too quick, and too daggone strong. His brother, Gennaro's brother, said enough is enough around the 8th round and threw that daggone towel in, and that was the end of it. And this was the beginning of the greatest reign to me in the history of boxing, because after this fight, Floyd would go on and fight. I thought his next big fight after this, I apologize, was against Diego Corrales. Now, this fight was huge because Diego Corrales was considered to be somebody that would knock you out. He had knockout power in both hands. He was obliterating guys himself. He was undefeated. But the thing about him was he could be touched. And when you look at his skill set, the way he kept his hands, you knew he didn't stand a chance against Floyd in real life. It was just a matter of if he could ever catch up to Floyd, which he couldn't. Floyd, great poise here. And this is one of the things about Floyd that separates him from everybody on my list and in the history of boxing is when he finds something that works, he gonna work it until you can stop it. He not like these other guys that get bored with doing something over and over. Not Floyd. He gonna keep doing it until you figure out a way to stop it. And look at that. And that's how Diego got that all night long. You know, and I hate to talk bad about my boy. He's not even around no more. But yeah, man, this is definitely one of the best performances of Floyd Mayweather's life, you know. And he did this thing easily, you know. Easily. Wasn't close, you know. His father, now this guy's father ended up throwing in the towel for those of y'all that know. So he shut him down, you know. Shouts to Floyd on this one. Okay, now this fight here, man, this one of them fights. You know, now I'm a Floyd Mayweather fan, as everybody know, but this is one of them fights here that was very close. I did not think Floyd lost this fight. I thought he showed great poise at the end. I thought he won enough of the early rounds. I gave him about 5 of those first 6 rounds. I thought Castillo took rounds off. It took him a while to figure it out. Then I don't know what happened, but some kind of way Floyd took the brakes off and Castillo started chopping at that tree, man. Next thing you know, he was on Floyd, you know, and Floyd was like losing rounds, you know. I gave Castillo 4 of the final 6 rounds, which is crazy that somebody would win that many rounds against Floyd, especially at that time. But I thought he did. And I thought with that score, it was Floyd 7 rounds to 5. So, but it was one of his toughest fights. He had to show great poise at the end because that guy was coming after him. Now, the fight was so close that he ended up fighting again. That was actually his next fight. And this fight wasn't nowhere near as close. Floyd showed why he's on another level. Too much speed, too much skill set, too much everything. You know, just on another level. And he really demonstrated in the second fight. I thought Castillo barely won 2 rounds. Super easy on the second fight. And great poise, by the way. Now, after that, he ended up going on and beating Arturo Gatti in New Jersey, which was a big deal, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm from Jersey, and Arturo was a big deal around that time. He's a Jersey City guy. So it was big. He was big in boxing, but it wasn't on nowhere near on Floyd's level. So he ended up stopping him as well, picking up another belt along the way. Now, the next time when he had to show great poise, I believe, was this fight here. Now, any of y'all who are familiar with Zab Judah, you know one thing about Zab is Zab can fight. But Zab is a stamina guy to me. He the type of guy, if he don't get you out of there early, he liable to get knocked out. You know, so that's then the story for me with Zab. I thought he probably trained the best he could to fight Floyd, but he probably underestimated Floyd, thinking he was better than Floyd. And he tagged Floyd early. You know, he was catching him with some shit, man. I got to tell you. And technically, he should have got credited with a knockdown because he hit Floyd one time and Floyd stumbled and his hand did touch the mat. You know, so technically that's a knockdown. So, you know, you got to give that to Zab. But Floyd figured out what he was up to and just started showing the separation. And this took great poise because this was a really heated bout. There was a lot of shit being said, a lot of talk, so I thought Floyd had to show his poise in this one, which he did, you know what I mean? And Zab started getting beat up. Next thing you know, he started playing dirty pool. As y'all know, he's hitting them with low blows. Here comes old Roger jumping in the ring, right? So it was just a big crazy thing. But as you'll see Floyd over there in the corner, great poise, right? And after this, he came out and demonstrated more poise and just started beating Zab up. I don't think Zab did shit after this that was even worth mentioning. So shouts to Floyd on this Zab Judah fight, man. One of his easier fights after that. All right, now this fight here is what introduced us to Money Mayweather. There was a lot going on with this fight. He had just bought himself out of the contract with Bob Arum. Oscar was considered the golden boy at the time, and he was really not on Floyd's level. I don't think he would have beat Floyd at any time in his life, but they ended up fighting at this time, and Floyd, to me, put the pressure on Oscar. Now, for those of y'all that study Floyd and know Floyd, he's not a weight bully, so it's hard to get him past 152. De La Hoya probably was closer to 170 in here, and I thought that was a mistake. When I saw Canelo fight Terrence Crawford, it made me think about this fight. Like, damn, because old De La Hoya tried to weight bully Floyd, and it didn't work out for him either. So, yeah, shouts to Floyd on this. I thought he showed great poise. He demonstrated where he was at and what level he was on compared to De La Hoya. And really, De La Hoya could have did a lot better if he would have jabbed. If he could have found a way to stick to his jab, he would have had much more success. But he didn't, and instead, he got a lot of this all night long. So, shouts to Floyd for winning this belt, right? Another belt. He won the WBC junior middleweight belt here, and this put him on another level. All right, after that, y'all already know Floyd had retired. He came back for Juan Manuel Marquez, and then he fought old Ricky Hatton. Now, this was another pressure-packed fight for Floyd, I thought, but in spite of the greatness and all the things, all the hoopla surrounding the fight, I thought it was one of his easier fights. I didn't think Ricky Hatton stood a chance against Floyd Mayweather, and it was clear. All of that hype was for nothing. But I'm not going to disrespect Ricky, I'm not going to even go there on him, but listen, he didn't have a chance to beat Floyd. Any era, any time. Just not enough skill set, All them guys he was beating over there in England, shouts to them, but please, Anyway, this was a great fight for Floyd, showed great poise. Ended up stopping old Hatton, TKO'd him in the 10th round, got him out of there. All right, so here, this is probably when Floyd maybe had one of his greatest chances at showing how poised he is, in spite of the fact that Mosley was 6 years older than him. And by the way, it wouldn't matter when they fought, but the thing to keep in mind is he's 6 years older than Floyd, so that's just that he's older than him by that much. So it's really, Anyway, old Mosley landed this right hand, as you can see right here, almost knocked my boy head off his shoulders, But in spite of that, Floyd stood tall, man. Without question, he was hurt. Without question, the right hand caught him off guard, which means that he could have been knocked out because it's the punches you don't see that really affect you. So shouts to Floyd, man. Showed great poise. And then look how he came back. That was the beginning of the end for Mosley. He actually, after that, they could have just stopped it. Mosley didn't win a round. And he looked pathetic. Should have retired after this. I hate to see them guys who are like Hall of Famers, high skill levels, like kind of get themselves where they just get whitewashed. He didn't do shit against Floyd after this fight. You know what I mean? Nothing but take punches in the face all night long. So shouts to Shane Mosley though, but yeah, this was a whitewash after that. Great poise again for Floyd, by the way. All right, next up to me where Floyd showed great poise was the Miguel Cotto fight. I thought this was a great great demonstration of poise. On top of everything else, Floyd did well because he was going to jail the following Monday, so his time was borrowed at the time. And what did he do but demonstrate, showed you what type of level it is. And he fought a little bit of a phone booth with Miguel here, trying to please the crowd. The crowd was kind of down on Floyd for a minute after that, but I thought he did a great job of keeping his composure here and showing what the skill set was all about. And even though Floyd had a tough fight with him, you could see it was a lot of respect that he had for Cotto. He felt bad for Cotto getting cheated in that Margarito situation. But anyway, after that, Floyd would beat Canelo. I thought that was one of his easiest fights. And here's where he showed, this is it for me. This is one of the reasons that he's on the list, because this Maidana fight, man. Marcos Maidana won 4 of the first 6 rounds against Floyd Mayweather that first fight. Some people like to give him 5. I wouldn't dare. But I gave him 4. I thought that the shit he was putting together on Floyd kept catching him off balance. Floyd didn't actually have a plan for how awkward Maidana was and the way he would throw punches from weird angles and come, as you see right there, how the right hand come over like that, but then he'll come back under with a left body shot, like, you know what I mean? So that's really high skill level shit there. People don't know Maidana could really, look at them. He could put some punches together. But from about the 6th round on, it was skill set over brawn. Floyd showed the poise. He showed why he is the best boxer ever. And Maidana was just off balance after that. Couldn't figure it out. I thought he started fighting like he was running out of gas to me. You know what I mean? Floyd really separated himself in the second half of that fight. And that was the reason why I gave him the fight too. And so did the judges. But everybody thought the fight was super close, which it was. And so people felt like, you need to fight this guy again. It was similar to the Castillo situation where a lot of people thought Castillo had won that fight. So Floyd fought Maidana again, but this time he fought him a little bit more like he should have the first time. Giving that boy jabs, movements, 1-2 step out, quick check hooks, step in and around and grab him, rip an uppercut here and there. And I thought it was all night long. And that was the end of the Maidana thing. That second fight wasn't even close. It was just thanks for showing up. And shouts to Maidana for showing up because he got himself a nice check. And guess what? It was more money than he had ever seen in his life. And so he retired after this. That boy quit boxing, said, I don't need this. Took his ass home, lived with his son, But look at that right hand he landed right there. See the poise in Floyd, though? Didn't even know he was hurt. And so as I wrap it up with my number 1, I just want to say how Floyd Mayweather fought over 17 world champions in his career as a champion. He defended that title. He fought 6 Hall of Famers during that time. There's nobody else, I think, in the history that's fought that many guys like that and fought that many world champions. You see what I'm saying? Whoever you want to name, they're just not on Floyd level, man. And Floyd had more money than anybody. And so the thing about money is it got a tendency to make you lazy. It takes away your ambition sometimes, at least on this kind of thing. And it did the exact opposite for Floyd. And I thought that was the most impressive thing of the whole Money Mayweather run, is because Marvin Hagler made a comment one time. He said it's hard to get out of bed and run when you got satin sheets. So that lets you know how he felt about money. So I don't think he would have been fighting the way Floyd was fighting if he had Floyd's money. I just don't. I don't think half them boxers would. I know Ray Robinson wouldn't have. So shouts to Floyd, man. Just really staying on another level against these guys with all that money, with all of that going on, never wavering, never giving up. Number 1 most poised boxer in the history of the sport and the best boxer.